2800 millimeter wingspan. It's the Witchcraft model. It's Nexa B-24 Liberator ARF kit. So I'm an assembler, not a builder. All right, it is raining outside and it's perfect time to stay indoors and work on projects. Okay, so before I put my wires in and my equipment, I like to use like a whiteboard. Before I show you my final game plan, I want to talk about some bad ideas. I didn't know they were bad at first until I got some education online through RC Group, and there's some wonderful people on there that were willing to help you get the job done right, so the plane doesn't crash or burn up. Okay, I really appreciate that. All right, bad idea number one. It says a standard DuPont connector is rated for 5 amps max, but rated at about 3 amps continuous draw. Okay, so these little, in other words, these little connectors that we deal with in these planes, they can comfortably handle continuous draw of 3 amps. Okay, 5 amps in short burst. You don't want to go over that, otherwise the wire is going to burn up. It's not good. So on a big plane like Big Birthday here, on a big plane with many servos, there's a large amp draw pulling at about 0.5, maybe 2 amps each. Just depends on the kind of servos you have. So it's nice to know like what's the draw going to be for these servos. Bad idea number one. I was going to have an 8-channel receiver. I got my 21 servos, approximately 21. I got my retracts. There's 3 of them on there. They're running like at 9 volts each. And that's going to be demanding power from the ESC. The ESC, I was going to feed 1 Beck wire into my receiver, 8-channel receiver. And the SBEC is rated at 8 amps. Okay, the other 3, because since it's a 4-engine plane, the other 3 Becks are just spliced out and taped off so that they don't cause a short. So this isn't going to work. Okay, so if this can only put out 8 amps, but I'm asking for power for around 21 servos, it's going to be too high. It's going to cause a voltage drop in your transmitter, put it into a brownout, and then you'll lose signal and crash the plane. Or the red wire itself is just going to burn up. Okay, so that's a bad idea. Bad idea number 2, I was going to take a red wire from one of the Becks. The other 3 are not plugged into anything. That Beck wire was going to power my retracts. It was going to get grounded signal from the receiver. The receiver itself is still going to be 8-channel. It was going to have a receiver pack supplying power, and I thought that was going to be cool, but it wasn't, because I still have those approximately 21 servos to deal with. That means I was going to have to use a lot of Y connectors. And anywhere in there, if those servos are pulling over what the little connectors are rated for, then you're going to burn up those Y connectors. You're going to burn up the wires. Okay, so we don't want to use a bunch of Y connectors. So to fix the problem, I have to add more batteries into the plane. I have to split them into more or individual power buses. And I have to increase the number of channels so that each servo has its own power source. Okay. Okay, this is the final game plan for this plane. It got very complicated, but it is going to work. We got power coming in from 4 different areas, and what I'm going to do is break down this wiring diagram into chunks. Okay, so my power distribution system, it's solid, clean power source going to my equipment. It's got 4 areas for power in the plane. So number 1, for my control surfaces, those are things like elevator, rudder, aileron, flap. And those servos have their own power source, except for my flaps, but I'll talk about that later. Okay, but each one's got its own power source coming from the receiver. The receiver it has 2 batteries going into it, 2 battery input, and the batteries for that are going to be Spectrum 6.6 volt, 2000 milliamp or more if I could find something with a little bit higher capacity, but since I'm running 2 batteries, it's going to be a total of 4000 milliamp. I don't think I'm going to have a problem with that. But those go into the receiver. And what's cool about this is that the batteries, if one of them kicks off, the other one will take care of the job. It won't shut off. And both batteries are going to be giving power to the receiver. So not just the receiver is not just drawing off one battery. So I like that. Each ESC has its own battery source. So I got 4 engines. My motor, let's talk about my motor real quick. It's going to be Admiral GP5, so it's a 5cc equivalent, 770 kV brushless outrunner motor. The ESCs are going to be ZTW Mantis 85 amp and has an 8 amp SPEC. It says 3 to 8S G2, but we're going to be running 4S. Okay. And the batteries, each one has its own battery. So the batteries are going to be Admiral 3600 milliamp 4S 14.8 volt 40 C discharge LiPo. Okay, so each one gets its own battery. And retracts, they have their own battery. And the way those, let's talk about the battery real quick. The battery is going to be a Spectrum 3S LiPo, 30C discharge, 11.1 volt, 22 milliamp hours. It's 11.1 volts, but I need my voltage for my retracts to be 7.4 volts, so I'm going to use a BEC. I have a Castle Creation BEC. It's set at 7.4 volts. And then that is going to power a multifunction control box. It's called a multifunction control box E. I'm using it as a gear controller. That's going to give power signal. It's going to give ground to my nose and my mains. And I'm also going to take advantage of the single stage doors on this box for my nose wheel. It's going to require 2 little nose retract doors up front, and then a takeoff light. Okay, so those are batteries. Since my ESC is going to be directly in front of the wing, it's not going to go inside the wing. There's not enough space. So since I'm extending battery leads from the ESC to the battery, I have to put in a cap pack. I have to put a capacitor pack behind each ESC. Okay, so I'm going to have long battery leads with a capacitor pack. The capacitor pack smooths out the voltage so it doesn't ruin the ESC with voltage ripple and voltage spikes. Okay, so how I figured out what capacitor packs I needed to buy, I calculated a minimum of 7,130 microfarad. It needs to be 25 volt, 36S capacitor pack. And since the way I calculated this out was that since I have a black and a red wire, and I'm going from my ESC to my battery, the black wire length plus the red wire length that I'm adding in is 62 inches. Okay, so how many capacitors, what capacitance do I need? I need to use this ratio, 460 microfarads for every 4 inches. So my outboard motors, that's 1 and 4. My outboard motors, so for one wing, I have 62 inches total, times this ratio, 460 over 4, equals 7,130 microfarad minimum. Okay, so in your calculator, you would just do 62 times 460 and then press equals, and then divided by 4 and then press equals, and then you'll get this number. Okay, I bought 8,000 microfarad minimum, and then for my inboard, that's ESCs 2 and 3. In one wing, the total, the wire length, the red wire plus the black wire, that's 34 inches. So times that ratio, I got 3,910 microfarad minimum. And I went ahead and ordered 5,400 microfarad. Okay, so I have to solder those into the wires. That's going to take care of that voltage spikes. Okay, so my turrets are independent from the receiver. I have to use what's called a random servo generator. It's a pretty cool little thing I bought online. Each one operates 2 turrets. So there's a total of 4 turrets that I gotta move. Some of them are in the back, some of them are in the front. But each one moves 2 turrets, and it's gonna be powered by its own batteries, so it's not plugged into any channel. So the little turrets are just gonna be moving on their own. And I'm gonna probably use a 1200 milliamp 6-volt nickel metal hydride battery for that. My servos that I used for the plane, here they are, all these different servos, and I calculated max amp draw or at stall. It says on the little specs when you look at draw for your servos. I added it all together, and it's probably about 22 amps, and that's if I'm really jamming the sticks and using all kinds of stuff, and I'm not going to be hitting 22 amps anyways. Okay, these things, they don't use very much, but again, we need to spread the power distribution out. I want to talk about my receiver. It says that it can handle a continuous current of 35 amps, so comfortably. The max current it can handle is 50 amps. And then it says channels 13 through 20 have 512 millisecond resolution and variable frame rate. They are intended for auxiliary functions such as retracts, lights, and do not use channels 13 through 20 for flight control surfaces. If 14 channel mode is used, all 14 channels are high resolution, and I'm going to use 20 channels here, but some of them I can only use for, or some of them are high resolution, so I need to use those for flight controls. Channel 1, I have to use a Y connector. I'm going to use a Y and connect throttles 1 and 4, Y connector, and then throttle, let's see, 2 and 3, I'm going to use a Y connector, and then I'm going to plug that into channel 2. So my first 2 channels are gone. They're being tied up. There's no red wire going into the receiver. Those Beck wires from the ESCs, those are spliced out and taped up. My power to my servos is coming from my receiver batteries. Okay, my flaps, the flaps, there are 2 flaps in each wing, and since there's 2 flaps in each wing, I'm gonna tie those. I'm gonna tie them together with the Y connector. So my right wing is gonna be channel 3. That'll take care of those flaps. My left wing, channel 4. That'll take care of those 2 flaps over there. And I'm not worried about exceeding the maximum amp draw on these little DuPont connectors, because these little servos, they're not standard servos. They're not standard size. They're a little smaller. And I know I'm definitely going to be under that maximum of 5 amps. And I'm not going to be using these these flaps all the time anyways. So I'm not worried about that. Gear channel 5, I'm sending my ground and my signal to my multifunction control box. The red wire is spliced out and taped off so it doesn't cause a short. My power for my gear, my landing gear, is coming from that separate battery, okay, and the voltage is regulated to 7.4 with that BEC. Okay, so ailerons, right aileron's gonna be channel 6, left aileron channel 7, and I'm gonna have to be using some channel mixing and master and slave and all that to get this stuff to work. Right elevator channel 8, left elevator channel 9, right rudder channel 10, left rudder channel 11, steering channel 12. And then for my bomb bay, I probably will use a total about 8 servos, because that is going to get pretty complicated. Anticipating some like complicated issues, there's 4 bomb bays, 1, 2, 3, 4 on the other side, and it's a door that goes up and down. I'm probably gonna have to run a servo on each side. Okay, 1, 2, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. About eight of those servos in there to operate the bomb bay. All right, so this is the final game plan, and it's gonna go by quick now that I've got an idea. I've mapped everything out, and I've got my right equipment, and I'm confident, that I'm not gonna burn something up. Some of this stuff is pretty expensive.